Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
How to be more efficient and productive using the 80-20 rule. Now, if you're a coach or consultant, you must have come across Tim Ferriss or Robert Koch or somebody called Pareto, okay, who created the Pareto principle. If you haven't, then I think you're missing out big time, in order for you to create a business that's actually profitable and enjoyable, because there's a rule that is now famously known as the 80-20 rule, which actually stipulates that 80% of all the output that we do as coaches and consultants or as human beings is actually emanating from 20% of the input that we would have done. And I'm going to be walking you through that aspect in and of itself, and you will see how you can actually be profitable in the way that you're doing your work and actually more efficient, because a lot of people are measuring in things that don't actually move the needle. So if you understand the 80-20 rule and how it actually works, especially in marketing, in your coaching and consulting, you, my friend, will be able to create a business that's profitable and enjoyable. And obviously, if you find yourself listening to this podcast and you're passionate about doing the work that you're meant to be doing and living an inspired life while you're doing that, then I guarantee you're in the right place, my friend. Yes, we're going to be talking numbers. We're going to be talking ways to be much more efficient and productive on your way to create a business that's profitable and enjoyable. And this is because my mission is to help inspired coaches like yourself to build a brand that they're proud of and create a lifestyle that you absolutely love. Okay, so yeah, I threw a couple of numbers in front of you today, 80 and 20. But what are they, and why are they very important, especially for you to understand, right? So a lot of coaches and consultants often search for ways that they can increase their productivity. They want to save time. They want to boost sales. They want to do less with more, but they don't quite know what it is that they have to do. If you implement what's called the 80-20 principle or philosophy, you, my friend, will be amongst the 20% of people that are actually winning at this game. All right. So if you implement the 80-20 marketing rule, you can actually achieve your goals and create a business that is meaningful to yourself and those that are around you. So if you're looking to develop a marketing strategy or improve your business operations, you can actually use what's called the 80-20 marketing rule to determine an effective plan and strategy. So we're going to be discussing what the 80-20 rule is, especially in light of marketing and also in business. And I'm going to try and give you ways that you can actually apply it for effective, campaigns and other marketing operations. All right. So what you need to understand is that the 80-20 rule states that 80% of the results come from 20% of the input or whatever it is that you would have, done to get those results. So some experts, like I mentioned, Robert Koch and Tim Ferriss, they actually refer to the 80-20 rule as the Pareto principle, which was named after the economist Vilfredo Pareto of Italy, who actually compared the wealth of a population. You know what he realized, which is actually very true, that 80% of a nation's income was in the hands of only 20% of the population. Have you ever noticed as well that 80% of the fame, money, and fortune is just in the hands of a select 20% of the population in the whole wide world. Okay, so whenever something goes viral on social media, only 20% of posts on social media are in the news feed 80% of the time. So the 80-20 rule applies to a lot of areas such as marketing, manufacturing, management, human resources, anything you can actually put people together. I can give you an example. You see, if you look in your newspaper or in your area right now, apparently 20% of criminals are committing 80% of the crimes, and 20% of drivers are the ones that are causing 80% of all traffic accidents. 80% of pollution originates from 20% of the factories. Everybody else is trying to be clean and everything else that's happening in the world right now. 20% of companies produce, they produce what is 80%, in the marketplace right now. And 20% of employees are usually responsible for 80% of the results that a company produces. And we can go on and on. You can try this by yourself. You can check it out in your industry, and you will see that 20% of whatever you do is what, constitutes 80% of the results that you're looking for. So it could be 20% of your marketing, it could be 20% of your sales, 20% of the posts that you're putting out there. 20% of anything constitutes 80% of the results that you will be getting. All right, so if we're looking at it in the marketing side of things, all right, it is said that 80% of results are a product of 20% of the time that you have invested in your business. You want to really look at what it is that you're doing right now and what sort of results you are looking to achieve. Okay, see, for people that are sort of in retail, this may look like swapping a lackluster advertising for one week or one day at an awesome trade show, or an actual website that converts your business. So for service-based businesses like yourself, it may be actually creating a workshop, creating assets, an online video series, a podcast like this. Obviously, it takes a bit of effort up front, but it can be replicated again and again with minimum effort. So, things of that nature. And if you're a digital or PR agency, you could actually refine your services and focus on a few areas and industries, as opposed to serving a variety and having to spend time learning each and every aspect of your business out there. And you will now start noticing that 80% of your sales actually come from 20% of your customers. 80% of complaints that you're receiving only come from 20% of the customers that you're serving. All right, so you want to find which 20% of the customers is actually helping you create more of your sales, and then you want to focus on making that 20% into 100% of your client book and things like that. Now, you see how it is actually starting to make sense that most of the things that we focus on, we usually focus on people that hurt us the most in life. We usually focus on, people that lie to us, or people that, or negativity, whereas that negativity is only 20% of what is happening in our day-to-day lives. You wake up in the morning and you stub your toe, on your bed, and then that now creates maybe the way you're gonna approach the world, just predicated or based on that one small incident. Or you're walking in the street and somebody bumps into you and you drop your coffee, or you drop your books, or whatever it is that you are carrying, and then you now make that become part of your day. That was only 20% of your 24 hours. But you know what? A lot of people, start focusing on that, all right? So the first thing to do is to understand where your time is going, where your efforts are going, all right? Because if you're not, setting your goals, and if you're not planning your days and your weeks and tracking your time, guess what happens? You will actually be spending a lot of your time doing, stuff that is not actually giving you the results that you're looking for, and you end up checking, your month or your year, and you notice, wait a minute, I haven't actually done much. I haven't actually moved the needle compared to what it is that you hoped to achieve, all right? So you want to link your activities to your outcomes. All right. I'm going to give you an example of what this looks like. An activity is doing this podcast right now. What is the actual outcome? The actual outcome is I've created a piece of content that will be utilized for as long as it's on the internet. And I'm not going to delete this podcast, right? So what does that mean? 20% of the activity, which is the actual podcast creation, is going to create 80% of the results of you listening to this podcast, of you taking notes from this podcast, or you sharing this podcast to whoever, you think might need to hear this, maybe to your team, your family, or whoever, you know what I mean? So I've only done just 20% of the required activity, whereas the podcast is going to do 80% of the leverage that will then be used in order to create the content and the value that I'm hoping to put out with this podcast. All right, so whatever you're doing, you can apply the 80-20 rule to any situation, but it's actually it isn't the be it and end all, which then has to dictate that, you know what I mean, you only have to give 20% attention to certain things. You just want to make sure that are my inputs going to equate to the outputs that you're looking for. Okay, so there's different ways that you can actually start using this 80-20 rule in order for you to actually create a business that's profitable and enjoyable. It starts when you're identifying your target market. Like I said, 80% of the happiness that you find in your result in your business is a result of just 20% of the clients that you have. So you want to find the best customers, the ones that bring you the most profit, the ones that bring you the most sales, people that pay, stay, and refer. Okay, which ones are those customers? And then you want to double up on that. Right, so the best customers usually are the people that bring you the most profits, meaning 80% of your sales may actually just come from 20% of your customers. So you want to identify that 20% of customers who buy the most from you and who can actually help you develop your marketing strategies and attract more of the right kind of people with the right kind of pain, because people like us do things like this. All right, so when you're out there and you're actually looking at your your email marketing, or when you're trying to identify your target market, first of all, look at who your regular customers are. All right, check the data in your CRMs and what sales the way you collect your sales, and then identify the customers who make frequent or most recent purchases. Right, so these are the people that you want to study as much as possible, because these are the people that you can then create into your own ambassadors moving forward. All right, so you can see people that buy on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, whichever way you sell your services and your products out there, and the insights that you have will definitely show you who are these people, how you can maximize reaching out to them, and then clarify your message so that you're just bringing in those same exact people. And then you can actually take advantage of the 80-20 rule there, where 20% of the customers that you have right now are actually giving you 80% of the profits and the happiness that you're looking for in your business. And then one other way for you to actually then find how you can, search for these people is to trace how these people found you. Okay, you want to identify the sources that brought you, these really good customers. Because yes, you might be on social media, but people on social media still need a lot of time and a lot of content to be convinced than somebody who looked you up on SEO. So you want to find out which exact source brings you, people that convert the most. All right, so finding where 20% of the customers come from will actually help you optimize your strategies and find more of the right kind of people with the right kind of pain without having to turn your brain into a pretzel. And once you've done that, analyze where these customers actually are. So if you know where these customers live online, it's easy for you to go and search for them and pull them out, all right? So you want to search where these 20% of customers were actually are. Maybe it's the region where you find them, the demographies, what social media platforms they are on, exactly how these people found you, where they were when they found you, and then all you got to do is replicate that so that you can actually find the right kind of people with the right kind of pain, and continuously evolve your business and also your offering. Okay. And speaking about offering, what is it that they bought from you and what is it that they keep buying? Because you might have a suite of products, as a coach or consultant, you might be doing your consulting, your training, your information, your expertise, your paid speaking gigs, and all the things out there. You want to identify your profitable products. Okay. Because you might have maybe 6 or 7 different products, but 20% of those products actually give you 80% of your profits. Okay. So, as a coach or consultant, you might have a few products that your customers absolutely love, which actually contribute, like I said, to 80% of your total sales. So instead of you going out there promoting just about everything else, or promoting products that are not actually bringing back home the bacon, you can actually just focus on improving your top selling 20% of the products, and services by launching either, new products or improved features, or providing your customers with better quality, coverage of what they're already buying. So instead of spraying and praying with your marketing out there, you can actually start improving the offerings that you're putting out there. That way, you can now start increasing customer value and you can now deliver a world-class experience. And guess what then happens? The more of a good experience people receive from you, the more they're going to buy from you, the more they're going to, refer to you, and you are growing your business just by looking at the 80-20, percent of whatever it is that you're putting out there. And once you've got the right kind of people with the right kind of offer or product, guess what? You start increasing the traffic that comes to your website, because the 80-20 rule can also work, with search engine optimization in ways that you could never have thought of, all right? Because if you consider that 80% of your website traffic maybe stems from 20% of the keywords that you are actually targeting, because now you know the products that people want to buy, you now know where to find them, you now know, the pain points that they are looking to solve. You just maximize on those keywords, creating content around that, creating videos, creating podcasts around that, 20%, so that you actually really get the most, instead of focusing on the 80% that is not bringing back anything. So if you've got the specific keywords, that may actually bring in more traffic than others, why not concentrate on creating content around them? Why not concentrate on creating lead magnets around them, so that your lead capturing funnel is just, beaming with the right kind of people with the right kind of pain that are actually going to make the right, purchases at the end of the day. So you can actually just look at the back of your website, check your analytics, all right, to see which blog posts, which social media posts, which, tools, which pages are bringing in more traffic, and which keywords are actually ranking high in the search results. And when you know which keywords bringing in the most traffic, you can now focus your efforts on those specific words and look for ways you can implement them in your marketing content, in your website design, just to make sure that you're actually maximizing that 20% to make it 100%. And you basically start investing your time wisely. I think it was Jim Rohn that mentioned that a lot of people major in minor things because we start to do certain things, and we hope that these things are actually, going to move the needle when they are not, all right? And you need to start, stop, or keep activities that are actually, bringing you closer to creating a business that's profitable and enjoyable. And eventually you will then invest your time wisely. As we all know, that time is one of those, precious commodities that you would never, get back if you've wasted it. All right. So if you apply the 80-20 rule to actually determine the best ways for you to actually, bring the results in your business, bring the sales in your business, and even motivate your team, by deciding of the whole team there's usually 20% of them that are actually doing the most. Who are they, and how can you actually empower them to want more, be more, and have more? You could do the same with your friends, anything that you can just, really sit down and analyze, because then you will now start focusing on those that are reciprocating whatever it is that you are putting out there. And you definitely be investing your time wisely, because now you're prioritizing 20% of the most important people, systems, processes, that are bringing you 80% of the sales, the revenue, the results that you actually want. And then you can actually focus on the remaining time on improving things that you need to be doing. You know what I mean? So sometimes we're following up with customers that don't pay us. Sometimes we're following up with people that are never going to convert into customers, and we're just wasting time, money, and effort, maybe sitting on unpaid consultations, and it doesn't even equate to any signups. You really must stop doing that. Find out what sort of people end up becoming customers, and you want to just sit in these calls. You just want to collaborate with partners and create products that will actually be bought, products that your customers will absolutely love, and not just sit around just hoping that people are going to convert and become customers that pay, stay, and refer. And once you've done that, you actually start managing your costs in a cost-effective way. You know why? Because when you look at where you're getting most results, you just start investing in the things that are actually producing the most. You can also use the 80-20 rule to actually identify 20% of the items responsible for 80% of the cost, your company's expenses, and you can actually start reducing your costs as much as possible. Because when you identify where you spend most of your money, you can actually make smarter budgeting decisions and increase profits by identifying where where you need to be spending more money in order for you to get the most of your return. All right, so you want to look at your production costs, your advertising costs, all these losses. Identify expenses that don't actually produce any benefits, and if you can actually cut down on those costs, you will be able to actually start becoming profitable. Because a lot of people are spending money on tools, systems, and processes, and even employees that are not actually producing any results. You can also start cutting out on maybe the content that you're producing, because whatever you are doing, there's always that 80-20 rule that you can actually input on there. What doesn't get measured is never going to get improved, or things of that nature. So you want to focus on that with your content. You want to focus on that with your traffic. You want to focus on that with just about everything you're producing. You might think, how do I do that on social media? Well, the 80-20 rule can work with your social media strategy, but actually, you want to consider that 80% of the social media sharing may actually come from 20% of the posts. So you want to discover that 20% of content that interests your audience and serves their needs, while they're also utilizing that to build your brand. So you check where the comments are, where the likes are, where the shares are. You can see that the 80-20 rule is just in about everything that we do in our day-to-day life. And if you ignore this, it is at your own peril. Because at the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie, this whole exercise may be tedious and uncomfortable to do, when you first get started, but it can also uncover, activities or people that are actually sucking your time. And it can be very difficult to confront that reality and say goodbye to either staff or clients that are not yielding, 20%, 80% of the results. They are the 20% that are actually drawing you down. But it can also bring you so much clarity on how you're spending your days, and what you must actually be doing in your business for you to be able to be profitable and to actually enjoy your business. And for me, man, that was well worth that uneasiness, because now I know what I need to do. And one thing that I do every single day is do this podcast. All right, show up, do this podcast, and I then just let everything else work its natural order through my staff, through my clients, through my community and everything else that comes along with it. I don't spend my time trying to push a rock uphill. If I'm not enjoying a certain activity, I don't put it in the 20% of the things that I'm supposed to be doing daily. You know what I mean? That way I've created my habits, I've created my communication strategy, and I now leverage and outsource most of the things that I don't need to be doing. So you want to see what is it within your business that you are wasting a lot of time on. And I'm probably just going to repeat some of the things that you might not have caught at your attention. First of all, usually 80% of the results are a product of 20% of the time that you have invested. So look at your friends, look at your clients, look at the content that you're putting out there. Is it yielding the results that you want? You want to look at the 20% that is doing the most, and then you really want to amplify that, okay? There's no point in you putting lipstick on a pig, because 80% of the sales actually come from 20% of the customers that you have. Which of those customers are giving you 80% of your profits? And you just want to go in and double up, identify those people, clarify your message to those people, and make sure that they become the people that pay, stay, and refer. That way you're not wasting your time. That way you're not wasting your resources. You're not getting your team to be doing things that they're not meant to be doing. All right. So this rule is something that you really have to be cognizant of, so that you can become more efficient and you can become more productive, and you can actually exploit this natural phenomenon and see how you can literally get 80% of whatever you want to achieve, just predicated and based on 20% of the results, of the input that you're going to be doing. Of course, this is a thing about numbers, and it's something that you need to personally do. No one is going to be doing this for you. But once you get it right, your customers, whatever products you're going to be creating, whatever way you're going to be showing up in the world would actually be intentional. And when you start doing intentional marketing, then you would actually create for and relate to the audience that you're going to be demanding money off of. All right. So if obviously you really want to go and dig a little bit further and find out how you can implement the 80-20 rule within your business, I definitely invite you to maybe schedule a call with me so that we can have a look at what it is that you're creating right now and how it actually is affecting your results. All right. So we'll work hands-on and actually develop a strategic plan, and then deep dive and work through your ideal client clarity, because like we said, 20% of the customers that you have actually allow you to have 80% of the sales, the results that you're actually enjoying at the moment. And then we'll then develop your strategic messaging, look at your consulting offers, your fees, and your pricing. Like I said earlier on, 20% of the products that you have is what is actually giving you most of the profit within your business. And if your business is not really optimized to make sure that 20% of your output results in 80% of your profit or the results, then we'll look at your business model optimization. And then pretty much after we've got that in check, I'll then help you set up your marketing engine and lead generation system so you can consistently attract the ideal clients. Okay. At the end of the day, I just want you to know that we often spend 80% of our time on things that only generate 20% of the results. And this is not just in business, in all areas of our life. By us reviewing where we are spending our time and where we're putting our energy and effort, we can actually start looking at the results that we're receiving, whether they're positive or negative. And once we know exactly what it is that we're supposed to be doing, we become more productive and we find more efficient solutions, to our business problems. This will actually shave off a lot of trial and error, a lot of false starts, because now you know exactly what 20% of your, results is being influenced by whatever 80% of the input that you're putting in your business, or that 20% of your output results, from the 80%, of the profit or results that you're supposed to be getting in your business. I know I might be confusing a lot of concepts there, but just know that I wanted to talk about the 80-20 rule. I use it a lot in my business. I wonder if you actually use it in your business as well. So if you want to check out, how we're utilizing this, just check out our website, and you'll notice that 20% of the pages that out there definitely are the 80% of the results that we are getting within our business. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au